Okay, so you know that feeling, right? You're scrolling through maybe Facebook, maybe somewhere else, an old forum perhaps, and it just feels, I don't know, a bit off.
Hmm.
Like the comments seem a little too similar, or a trending topic doesn't really have uh, that buzz of real discussion.
Yeah, a bit hollow sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or the content itself feels like machine-made, almost extruded.
Right.
Well, what if that feeling isn't just you being paranoid? What if it's actually pointing towards something, well, bigger?
Okay.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into something called the dead internet theory.
Right. DIT.
Yeah, DIT. It's this really interesting, maybe slightly unsettling idea that a lot of the internet, and maybe especially social media, isn't quite as authentically human as we tend to think it is.
Okay.
The theory goes that it's increasingly dominated by bots, by AI, by algorithms that are just really good at mimicking human behavior.
So programs acting like people online, basically.
Pretty much. So our goal today is to, unpack where this theory came from, what it's actually claiming, look at some of the so-called evidence people point to,
Mm-hmm.
and crucially think about what it might mean for you, the listener, for your own experience online, how you navigate the digital world.
And we've got a fair bit to draw on here.
We do. We've gathered articles and research from places like The Guardian, The Atlantic, Forbes, Ars Technica, builtin.com, some academic papers from rxrv.org, Springer, SSRN, ResearchGate, and even Wikipedia's got a page on it now.
And it's important to dig into this now, wouldn't you say? Because that feeling you mentioned, that unease, it connects directly to how much AI is becoming part of our everyday lives.
That's a great point.
This isn't just some fringe internet theory anymore. If significant chunks of our online world aren't genuinely human, well, it forces us to ask some really big questions. Questions about trust. What information can you actually rely on? And maybe even how we collectively perceive reality when we're online. It could be shifting things in ways we don't fully grasp yet.
That idea of a shifting perception is, wow. Okay, so let's start right there. What exactly is the dead internet theory?
Mm.
You said programs acting like people, but it's more than just a few spam bots, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. It's not about spotting the odd bot here or there. The core idea is that a vast and crucially growing portion of online content and the interactions around that content are fundamentally non-human.
So you're scrolling your feed.
Yeah, and the theory suggests many of those posts you see, the comments under them, the replies, they might not be coming from a person typing on a keyboard. They could be generated by a pretty sophisticated program.
And why did this theory start catching on? What's driving it?
Well, I think it's really a reaction to a few converging trends people started noticing.
Yeah.
This feeling that platforms are becoming more and more similar, homogenized.
Right, everything looks the same.
Yeah, that plus the absolute explosion in automated bots for good and bad reasons, and also just the sheer amount of content that feels like it was spat out by an algorithm rather than created by a person.
Okay.
And maybe most importantly, it points a finger at this shift in priorities for the platforms themselves, moving away from maybe fostering genuine human connection towards just maximizing engagement metrics.
Clicks, likes, shares, watch time, all that stuff.
Exactly. Likes, shares, comments, how long you stay scrolling. And AI is right at the center of that because platforms use algorithms, machine learning, not just to show you stuff, but to actively drive that engagement.
To keep you hooked.
Right. And ultimately maximize ad revenue. So the theory isn't just bots exist. It's more about how the fundamental design, the architecture of these platforms actually encourages and amplifies non-human content because it often performs well on those metrics.
That makes sense. The incentives are kind of skewed. So if that's the why, where did the idea itself first bubble up?
It really seems to have started, or at least gained early traction, in online communities. People point to discussions on forums like 4chan and Reddit, maybe back in the mid-2010s.
So underground for a while.
Yeah, kind of a niche, maybe even fringe idea for a bit.
Until it wasn't.
Right. It really seemed to hit the mainstream or at least get much wider attention around 2021. There was this specific post, apparently on a forum called Agora Road's Macintosh Cafe, titled Dead Internet Theory, Most of the Internet is Fake.
Catchy title.
It is. And that post got shared around a lot, and suddenly more people were talking about it, debating it.
Okay, so it breaks out in 2021. What are the actual core claims? What does DIT propose is happening right now?
Well, the big one is that most online activity isn't actually human anymore. It's driven by bots.
Most. That sounds extreme.
It does sound extreme, and that's a key point of debate we'll get to. But the theory claims that AI-generated content is basically dominating platforms, the big ones like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah.
It's proposing a kind of AI takeover.
But not like Skynet becoming self-aware.
No, not sentient machines in that sci-fi sense.
Yeah.
It's much more subtle, more insidious maybe. It's about automated systems flooding the zone with content designed purely to capture attention or mimic engagement.
That sounds pretty bleak, actually. And there's another layer to it, isn't there? It's not just bots making content, but also interacting with it.
Exactly. That's one of the really disturbing parts of the theory, this idea of a feedback loop.
Explain that.
So the theory suggests you have AI-managed account bots, basically, engaging with AI-generated content. They're liking it, commenting on it, sharing it.
Creating fake buzz.
Precisely. A self-sustaining cycle of purely artificial engagement that often doesn't involve any humans at all. It's like a machine talking to itself, but making it look like a popular conversation.
Wow. So even if a real person stumbles into that conversation,
They might be replying to a bot, arguing with a bot, liking something boosted by bots without even realizing it. The theory suggests this subtly shifts the whole online environment, what we perceive as popular or normal, without us being fully aware of the manipulation.
okay, so if that's happening, then the whole original promise of the internet, connecting people.
Seems pretty warped, doesn't it?
Yeah. The theory basically says the internet's main goal now isn't human connection. It's just about maximizing ad revenue by juicing those engagement numbers we talked about.
Right.
And the result, according to DIT, is this loss of diversity in content, this sort of dehumanized online experience where it feels like algorithms are calling all the shots, not human creativity.
And that ties directly back to that feeling you mentioned at the start, that sense of artificiality people report.
Right, that subjective experience.
Yeah.
What does that actually feel like for people who believe this?
It's often described as this overwhelming sense of repetition. You see the same opinions, the same jokes, the same types of posts over and over.
Like templates.
Yeah, exactly. Or you look at comment sections and the replies feel incredibly generic or strangely similar to each other. Great post. Or something equally bland repeated endlessly.
Or trending topics that don't seem to have any real heat behind them.
Right. They feel manufactured. There's no organic debate or excitement. The analogy some people use is like walking into a really crowded room, but then you realize most of the people are actually mannequins just programmed to nod or clap at certain times.
That's a powerful image. And what's the impact of feeling like you're in that ring full of mannequins?
Well, proponents say it can lead to this weird sense of isolation, even when you're supposedly connected to millions online.
Because the connection isn't real.
Potentially, yeah. And it raises serious questions. Who can you actually trust online? Are you having a real conversation, or are you just shouting into an algorithmic void? Is meaningful connection even possible in these spaces anymore?
Okay, but is this all just a vibe? Or are there concrete examples people point to as, like, evidence for this theory?
There are definitely specific examples that get cited a lot, things that seem to bolster the claims.
Like what? I remember reading about something truly bizarre. Shrimp Jesus.
Ah, yes. Shrimp Jesus. That's a classic example people bring up.
What was that?
It was basically these AI-generated images, often posted on Facebook, that bizarrely combined images of, well, Jesus Christ, with shrimp and other crustaceans.
Seriously, shrimp.
Seriously. And the weirdest part wasn't just that they existed, but that these posts were getting thousands of likes, comments, shares, engagement through the roof.
Are pictures of Shrimp Jesus.
Right. And the insight there for DIT proponents isn't just, look, weird AI content exists. It's more about how the algorithms, which are designed to promote engagement, can latch onto and amplify something completely nonsensical, something with no discernible human logic or appeal.
Because it triggered the metrics?
Exactly. It hit the engagement button, so the algorithm pushed it, regardless of whether any real human actually liked Shrimp Jesus. It sort of reveals a disconnect between algorithmic success and genuine human resonance.
Okay, that is weird. What else?
Well, beyond oddities like Shrimp Jesus, there's the more straightforward, maybe more concerning rise of AI-generated influencers.
You mean like digital models?
Yeah, but more than just models. Entirely synthetic personalities created by AI who have millions of followers, brand deals, the whole package. People are following and interacting with someone who literally doesn't exist.
That's unsettling. Makes you question who you're actually following online.
It does, and then there's the well-documented stuff. the widespread use of bot farms to artificially inflate engagement metrics.
Making things trend, making accounts look popular.
Exactly. Pushing narratives, making products seem more desirable, influencing discussions. It's a known tactic used for commercial and sometimes political reasons.
And this isn't just being talked about on Reddit anymore, right? You mentioned academia is looking at it.
That's right. It's starting to get serious academic attention. For instance, there's apparently an upcoming paper slated for 2025 with the title The Dead Internet Theory, a survey on artificial interactions and the future of social media.
So researchers are actually mapping out the theory, its claims, its potential implications.
Yeah, it shows it's moving beyond just an online rumor and becoming a subject of formal study, which is interesting in itself.
So let's connect those dots then. If we take these claims and examples seriously, what are the bigger picture implications, the real-world concerns?
I think the biggest one, as we touched on, is the potential erosion of trust. If the online world becomes saturated with AI-generated content and fake interactions, how can you believe anything you see or read?
It makes everything feel unreliable.
Exactly. And that naturally leads to concerns about a loss of genuine content diversity if algorithms favor certain types of easily generated or engagement bait content, and just a general dehumanization of the internet. It becomes less a place for people, more a space for optimized content delivery.
And it feels like there are potentially more sinister uses here too, beyond just feeling weird or seeing shrimp.
Absolutely. The potential for weaponizing AI-generated content for disinformation and propaganda is huge. Well, think about creating fake news articles, deepfake videos, or armies of bots spreading specific political narratives. Studies have already shown bots playing a significant role in disseminating articles from unreliable news sources.
Making fringe ideas seem mainstream or amplifying division.
Right. They can legitimize misinformation, sway public opinion, maybe even interfere with elections. The ability to generate human-like text and images at scale is a powerful tool for anyone looking to manipulate populations.
So the societal impact could be quite profound then.
It really could. If genuine human interaction online declines because it's drowned out by AI or because people just don't trust the space anymore, what does that do?
Yeah, what does it do?
It could potentially weaken democratic processes if public discourse is heavily manipulated. It could fray social cohesion. And on a personal level, it could further isolate people if our primary social spaces feel increasingly artificial.
Okay, so there's a lot at stake, which brings us to the big question. Is this real? Is the dead internet theory an accurate description of our online reality, or is it, an overblown panic, maybe even a conspiracy theory?
That's the central debate, isn't it?
So on one side, you have the proponents. What's their main argument for why it's real now?
They'd argue that AI-generated content is already overwhelming us, that the scale of bot activity and automated content creation is so vast that distinguishing human from non-human online is becoming genuinely difficult, maybe impossible in some contexts. They see the dead internet not as a future possibility, but as a present reality we're just starting to recognize.
The internet is already dead, we just haven't noticed yet.
Kind of, yeah. That's the strong version.
Okay, what about the critics? What's the counter-argument?
Well, the main counter is that it's likely an overstatement. Critics point out that despite the rise of AI and bots, humans still create the vast majority of truly original content, drive the meaningful conversations, and form the real communities online.
So places like Reddit, maybe parts of Twitter or Facebook groups, they're still mostly human.
That's the argument. They'd say that while bots and AI content are definitely present and sometimes problematic, they haven't fundamentally killed the human element of the internet. Some critics go further and label DIT itself as more of a paranoid conspiracy theory than a grounded analysis.
So it's a spectrum of belief, from it's happening now to it's an exaggeration.
Exactly. And the truth is likely somewhere complex in the middle.
There's also this interesting sort of paradox, isn't there, with AI itself?
How do you mean?
Well, the idea that AI is creating this problem of fake content and bots,
Okay.
but maybe AI could also be part of the solution.
Right. That's definitely part of the conversation. The potential for using AI tools to detect AI-generated content or coordinated bot activity.
Like AI-powered truth meters or verification systems built into platforms?
Potentially, yeah, AI could help sift through the noise, flag suspicious content, authenticate human users, but
There's always a but.
there's always a but. There are also major concerns about that AI's potential for bias, for errors, or even for being manipulated itself. Who controls the AI truth meter? Right. It's kind of a technological arms race, and it's not clear who wins or if winning is even the right way to think about it. It's a double-edged sword, for sure.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Let's try to wrap this up. What are the key takeaways from this deep dive?
I think the main thing is understanding what the dead internet theory actually proposes. This idea of a growing non-human presence online, largely driven by AI and automated bots. And recognizing the genuine concerns this raises about authenticity, about the erosion of trust online, and ultimately about the future of real human connection in these digital spaces we rely on so much.
So for you listening, what's your role in all this? How do you navigate this potentially dead or dying internet?
Well, I think this whole conversation really underscores how important critical thinking is. Maintaining a healthy dose of skepticism when you're online, especially on social media.
Questioning what you see, where it came from.
Exactly. And maybe consciously trying to foster a more human-centric approach yourself, seeking out genuine communities, prioritizing real interactions over just passively consuming algorithmically fed content.
And it definitely points to a need for better tools,
Right.
right? Better ways to verify information and spot artificial content. That seems urgent.
Absolutely. There's a real need for robust verification systems to help us all navigate this landscape more safely and confidently.
Okay, before we finish, let's leave our listeners with something to chew on. A final thought.
Okay, here's one to consider. If the internet, or large parts of it, truly did become dead to genuine human interaction, what fundamental aspect of our shared global consciousness might we lose forever? Something beyond just the content itself, something about how we connect and understand each other as a species. What might that loss actually feel like in the long run?